There are 4 horsemen of the parenting apocalypse, and they're trying to kill the intentional father. So dads, it's time for us to rise up and make sure those horsemen don't take our place in the family. Welcome to the Intentional Father Podcast, where us fathers parent our children, not by accident, but with intent. I'm your host, Aaron Stroman. The 4 horsemen of the parenting apocalypse, we're going to talk about them, unpack the dangers that they bring to the table, and unpack the opportunities. If we find ourselves identifying with one of these horsemen, how can we become better fathers? Here they are, the four of them. First one is the boss. Second one is a perfectionist. Third one is a Disney parent. And fourth one is the astronaut. Let's break each one of these down, look at their dangers, and look at the opportunities that we have to overcome them and be fathers of intentionality. The boss. Think of the boss in your own life. The boss is that person at work who's in charge, right? They're the one who signs a paycheck. They tell you what to do, when to do it. They create the work schedule for you, the shift work, whatever. And they're the ones that get you in trouble when you mess up. The boss, as the horseman of the parenting apocalypse, this is a person who is completely in charge of the children. In fact, the children don't have a whole lot of say in the situation because you're bossing them around. Notice how the word boss changed from a noun into a verb. You boss them around. That's an indicator that maybe you are the boss horseman of the parenting apocalypse. You micromanage. You don't give children any say of their own. You don't give them a voice of their own. You tell them exactly what to do and you expect them to do it. Now, here's the other dynamic with having a boss. You might put up with that because you're getting paid, but who are you hanging out with in the evenings and on the weekends? You're not calling up the boss. No, you're calling up your friends. And what does that say about the boss parent? Maybe you have a good grip on expectations and really high standards, but you don't have the relationship. And your children aren't going to choose to be with you when they have the choice. And when does that choice come? That choice comes in adulthood. One of my favorite authors and speakers, he talked about parenting success as your children choosing to be with you when they don't have to. And if you're too bossy in the 18-year-old and lower age range, when your kids become adults and move out, they're not going to want to hang out with you. And so you kind of got to pick. You want that. You want to spend that 18 years with them or a lifetime with them. And if you're too much of a boss, it's not going to work out in the long run. So if you identify with the boss horseman of the parenting apocalypse, what can you do? Here's the big thing. Focus on relationship and learn the difference between having authority and being the authoritarian. It's okay to have authority. You're the parent. You're the intentional father. You need to parent, raise your kids, set the expectations, set the standards for the family. But you don't need to be an authoritarian. You don't need to be the dictator who micromanages and moves all the strings as a puppet master. Let your kids have some freedom and independence. Build a relationship with them so that they enjoy your presence and respect your authority. The authoritarian demands respect even when it's not earned. You're treading on thin ice at that point. That's not what you want. So, boss parent, lighten up a little bit. You have great control, but focus on the relationship and find the difference between authority and being authoritarian. So that's the first horseman of the parenting apocalypse. What's the second one? The perfectionist. Oh, and this one hurts because this is the one I struggle with. What is a perfectionist parent? The perfectionist parent has super high standards. So high, they're actually unrealistic. We want our kids to be perfect. But then we get the reality check. Wait, they're not perfect, and neither are we. Oh, man. I've talked about this one in a prior episode. Maybe I'll throw it up on the screen. But one of the ways I've seen this in my life is when I was teaching my kids to load the dishwasher when they're like 3 or 4 years old. You would have thought I went to college and got a doctorate in how to load the dishwasher. I mean, I put the plates in the little slots and they're lined up and they look nice and I understand the physics and the direction of the water spraying up through those little swirly around water sprayers in the dishwasher. And, I angle the silverware and the spoons out so the face of the spoon gets washed better and the peanut butter doesn't get stuck in there. All right, I mean, we're all like that. Especially when our kids are young, do we expect them to load it perfectly every time? And if we do, then we're the perfectionist parent. We need to back off. We need to take a chill pill and realize, hey, just getting the dish in the dishwasher is a win. Who cares if the bowl is facing down or facing up? Let's just start there. Now, can you slowly and gently make improvements and teach improvements? Yeah, but it doesn't have to all be at one time. What I suggest with the dishwasher thing, and this is what I did for a while for myself, I would have the kids load it, and I would wait for them to leave before I would fix a couple of the dishes and tidy it up. Why? Because if the child sees you fixing what they just did, you're sending the message, I expect perfection and you aren't perfect. And the child is going to feel rejected or inadequate in the eyes of the parents, and that can cause some emotional damage. We don't want that. So, perfectionist parents, what can you do to kill that horseman of the parenting apocalypse? You got to show unconditional love. You got to make sure your kids know that you love them regardless of the condition. And what's the condition that we put on our kids? It's perfectionism. Don't put that on your kids. I just heard a story of Kobe Bryant. When he was a boy playing in a summer basketball league, he wasn't scoring points. He wasn't doing well. His dad would come and watch the games, and he wanted to score a basket so bad to appease his father. The very last game of the season, he's playing. He didn't score all season long, and he was just destroyed on the inside. His father came up to him and said, Kobe, I love you whether or not you score baskets. I am so proud of you. My love for you is unconditional. When Kobe realized that his father's love for him was unconditional, it released him to focus on basketball instead of focus on appeasing his father's love, trying to earn his father's love. And look, he pursued excellence and became one of the GOATs of the NBA. Unconditional love is a solution for the perfectionist parent. We got to tell our kids that we love them unconditionally. And let's just lower the standards, lower the expectations. That's for the perfectionist parent. That's a little different than the next horseman of the parenting apocalypse, and that is the Disney parent. Now, I just say that and you know what I'm talking about. Who's the Disney parent? The Disney parent is a parent who takes their kid to Disney World. They like to have all the fun. They have all the joy. They play all the games, and they don't have any of the hard work or responsibilities. That's the Disney parent. Oh, man. Not good. You know what quite often the Disney parent's life goal is? Their life goal is to be their child's best friend. The Disney parent wants to be their kid's best friend. Let me be very clear. As a parent, you get to choose what stage of life you can be your kid's best friend in, either childhood or adulthood, but you can't have both. I'm going to say that again. As a parent, you cannot be your child's best friend in both childhood and adulthood. It's got to be one or the other. So choose very carefully what you want for the long run. Because if you choose to be your kid's friend during childhood, you get maybe 16 years of that. If you choose to be your kid's best friend in adulthood, I mean, that's 18 until you pass away. I mean, you're talking 40 plus years of friendship. But you don't get to have both. And why not? When you focus on being your child's best friend when they're a kid, you're going to forfeit some of your duty as the parent. You're going to forfeit the discipline, the structure, the consequence, the responsibilities that every kid needs to grow into a mature adult who can live independently, provide for themselves and for their own family. But when you focus on being the best friend in childhood, you can have that fun time, but when they become adults, they're going to look back at you and realize that You weren't a good parent. You spoiled them. And now they're spoiled, and the relationship cannot live on being spoiled. There's not enough money in the world. That's not how relationships work. So the Disney parent, opposite of the perfectionist, how do you combat that Disney parent of the parenting apocalypse, that horseman? Here's what you got to do. First of all, don't worry about being your child's best friend. It's okay to be friends with your kid. I want to be friendly with my children too. But focus on the long run. Okay? Think of the long run. Do you want to have that 16 to 18 years of friendship, or do you want to have 40 plus years of friendship? How can you raise your child in a way so they can live independently of you? And that is going to take some of that discipline, intentionality, given responsibilities, given the chores, having consequences for bad behaviors. It takes that. But when kids turn into adults, they look back on that and go, oh my gosh, I am grateful that my parents didn't let me get away with everything. They made me earn some stuff. I had to buy my own car. I wasn't spoiled. We didn't focus on being best friends then, but we can focus on being best friends now, because now there's that respect, there's that honor, and they look to you for parenting advice. The grown children aren't looking to the Disney parent for parenting advice. So I don't want to get too heavy on the Disney parent, but man, don't do that to your kids. Focus on the long run. Okay, so we've mentioned 3 of the horsemen of the parenting apocalypse: the boss, the perfectionist, and the Disney parent. What's the fourth one? The fourth one is the astronaut. The astronaut parent exists, but he lives on another planet. He's up on the moon. He's absent. Just like an astronaut, it's like, maybe you can see them on a video screen somewhere, but they're up on the moon or on Mars or wherever they are, floating around in a space station, but they're not home present. Now, what does the astronaut parent look like? I mean, it varies to degree. We have the father who's literally absent. He fertilized the egg, but he's never seen a child for whatever reason. So there's definitely a huge problem of fatherlessness in the United States of America. That breaks my heart. I'm guessing that father isn't watching this podcast, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time there. But if you are, get involved in your kid's life. Do everything you can in your power to reintroduce yourself to that child and father your children. What else does it look like, though? It's not always that dramatic. Sometimes the astronaut parent looks like the man who goes to work 7 to 6, comes home, maybe eats dinner with the family, but then goes back to work either mentally, on the phone, on the laptop, in the home office. And this is a tragedy. Why? Quite often, that astronaut parent who works all day and all night is doing so to provide for the family. The irony is, the work that he's doing to provide for the family is pulling him away from the family. I know it's important to be a provider, but your kids need your presence more than they need your provisions. Another way I say it is, your children want your presence more than they want your presence. They want you to be there. They don't care how much money you make if you're not around to spend time with them. So yeah, you're a provider, but are you fully present? Maybe mentally you're checked out. Put down the phone, turn off the TV, close up the laptop, and be present. Go to the activities on the weekends. Yeah, you could be working and earning overtime. Who cares? Watch your kids play the soccer game or do the dance recitals. Go outside and play catch with them. Teach your son how to change the oil and your daughter how to change a tire. Spend that time with them, and don't be absent. Don't be floating off, in outer space when your kids their feet are on the ground, on earth, in your house. Be there for them. So be fully present. And the one-on-one time. I've talked about this. I'll throw it up on the screen too for those of you watching. but spending one-on-one time with your child is how you kill the astronaut horsemen of the parenting apocalypse. So there's all four of them: the boss, the perfectionist, the Disney parent, the astronaut. And if one of those exists, there's no room for the intentional father to be in the same house. So we have to kill that horseman of the parenting apocalypse and be fathers of intentionality. So that's my challenge and encouragement to you today. May God bless you and your parenting efforts. I'll see you on the next episode.